You know, history will forget us unless someone declares this story too boring to record, muttered Riley Carter, scratching his head as he stared at the monstrosity of tangled conduits and glowing panels before him. Riley, a scruffy human with an eye for chaos and a knack for turning the impossible into barely functional reality, squinted at the quantum engine towering above him. To the untrained eye, it looked like a work of genius, a pulsing, swirling orb of energy suspended in a cage of crystalline alloy, humming with a dissonant tune that made your teeth ache if you stood too close. To Riley, it looked like a video game glitch come to life. Behind him, Ambassador Zira, a dignified reptilian alien with sleek silver scales and a perpetually exasperated expression, folded her arms. Human, this is not the time for your jokes. This engine represents the pinnacle of our collective knowledge. It is the key to interdimensional propulsion, if it can be made to function. Riley turned, adjusting his grease-streaked jacket. Zira, I don't need a lecture. What I need is for you and your crew of genius aliens to admit one thing. And what is that? Zira's tone dripped with irritation. That you over-engineered the hell out of this thing. Riley gestured dramatically at the engine, which promptly let out a low, ominous hum, as if offended. This isn't a machine. It's a performance art piece. You're trying to bend quantum reality, but you forgot to ask one basic question. Zira's eyes narrowed. And that is? Does it actually work? Riley grinned, grabbing a battered toolbox from the floor. Step aside, Ambassador. I'm about to teach your galaxy's brightest minds what it means to embrace good old-fashioned trial and error. Zira's head tilted in disbelief. You intend to fix a quantum engine capable of rewriting physics with a toolbox? Not just a toolbox. Riley winked and held up a roll of duct tape. This, Ambassador, is the power of human ingenuity. The engine let out a sputtering whine as Riley approached, muttering under his breath, All right, big guy. Let's find out where they went wrong. As Riley circled the quantum engine, the alien scientists in the room exchanged worried glances. Each member of Zira's team was a picture of alien perfection, sleek, tall, and draped in their respective uniforms, adorned with glowing insignias of their expertise. Their collective knowledge could have rewritten textbooks on 100 worlds, yet here they were, watching a human with a beaten-up toolbox and a reckless grin. The engine pulsed again, its light stuttering unevenly like a failing neon sign. Zira's silver-scaled face twitched with suppressed frustration. Human, she began, her tone carefully measured. I understand your species has a unique approach to problem solving, but this engine operates on principles that defy conventional understanding. It was designed to manipulate quantum layers and it doesn't work, Riley interrupted, popping open a panel with a crowbar and ignoring the collective gasp from the scientists. If you wanted to make something look pretty, congrats, mission accomplished. But if you wanted it to actually do its job, you might want to rethink the entire rules of physics thing. One of the scientists, a stoic being with translucent skin and glowing veins named Dr. Vnak, stepped forward. This engine was built to fold quantum layers seamlessly. Are you suggesting we discard millennia of scientific theory? Riley ducked his head into the exposed panel, his muffled voice responding, I'm suggesting you stop worshiping the damn thing like it's the Holy Grail and start treating it like a broken toaster. A loud clang echoed through the room as Riley yanked out a tangled cluster of wires. Sparks flew, and the engine let out a disgruntled whine. Zira's claws clenched. What are you doing? Diagnosing the problem, Riley said casually, holding up the mess of wires. See this? Half these connections are redundant. It's like someone was afraid the engine might sneeze, so they built 3 backup systems that trip over each other. Classic over-engineering. Happens all the time back home. Back home? Dr. Vnak echoed. Earth, Riley replied, tossing the wires aside and grabbing a multimeter, where we learned to fix things by asking, what's the least amount of effort I can put into this to make it work? By the time Riley finished his diagnosis, the containment room looked like a battlefield. Tools, wires, and random alien components littered the floor. The once pristine engine now had panels removed, conduits rerouted, and glowing circuits jury-rigged with what looked suspiciously like Earth-made clamps. The alien team watched in horror, their expressions ranging from disbelief to outright panic. Zira, however, was too fascinated to intervene. "This barely qualifies as engineering," Dr. Vinak muttered, his glowing veins dimming in disapproval. "Exactly," Riley said, tightening a bolt with a wrench. "If it works, it works. Doesn't matter how ugly it looks." Zira stepped forward, her voice sharp. "Explain your reasoning, human." Riley straightened, wiping his hands on his jacket. "Simple. You guys built this thing with the assumption that it would follow your rules. But the whole point of breaking physics is that it doesn't follow rules. So, I stopped worrying about why it shouldn't work and focused on what it needed to function." "Which is?" Zira asked skeptically. "Breathing room," Riley said with a grin. "You clogged this thing with too much precision. You were so focused on perfection that you forgot machines need a little wiggle room to handle reality." Before anyone could respond, the engine hummed, smoothly for the first time since its creation. Its swirling energy stabilized, the light shifting from chaotic bursts to a steady, harmonious glow. The room fell silent. "You did it," Zira whispered, her voice tinged with disbelief. "Damn right I did," Riley said, patting the engine like an old friend. "All it needed was someone to stop overthinking it." Word of Riley's success spread faster than a hyperlight transmission. Within days, representatives from dozens of alien species flocked to the research station to witness the miracle engine in action. The Galactic Council convened an emergency meeting to discuss the implications. Riley, now an unwitting celebrity, found himself standing in the middle of the council's grand chamber, a massive circular room with floating platforms occupied by delegates of every imaginable species. "This is the human responsible for stabilizing the quantum engine?" one delegate asked, his three eyes narrowing in skepticism. Riley adjusted his jacket and gave a small wave. "Hi, yeah, that's me. Fixed your fancy engine. You're welcome." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Zira, standing beside him, cleared her throat. "What my human colleague means to say is that his unique approach allowed us to overcome challenges we believed were insurmountable." "Unique approach?" another delegate asked. "You mean recklessness?" "Call it what you want," Riley said with a shrug. "But the engine works, and it works because I stopped caring about what couldn't be done and started asking what could be done." The murmurs turned into debates, some praising Riley's ingenuity, others questioning the implications of humanity's chaotic methods. Zira leaned toward Riley and whispered, "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" "More than I should," Riley admitted with a grin. The quantum engine now rested at the heart of the Galactic Vanguard, a state-of-the-art starship designed to showcase the galaxy's finest technology. Riley stood in the ship's cavernous engine room, surrounded by pulsating conduits and holographic displays that projected the engine's status in real time. The engine hummed softly, its once chaotic energy stabilized under Riley's unconventional modifications. "This is it," Zira said, standing beside Riley. Her silver-scaled face reflected the glowing lights of the chamber. "The first field test. Are you confident your methods will hold?" Riley adjusted his jacket and grinned. "Zira, confidence is the only thing holding this together." Behind them, Dr. Vinak and a team of engineers monitored the system with a mix of fascination and barely concealed skepticism. "Activating the engine in 3, Vinak announced, his translucent form glowing faintly as he tapped on a floating holographic console. 2, 1. The engine roared to life, its energy spreading through the ship like ripples in a pond. The lights dimmed momentarily as the quantum layers bent around the vessel, propelling it forward at a speed no one had ever achieved. "Status?" Zira demanded, her voice cutting through the hum of the engine. "Stable," Vinak replied, his glowing veins brightening in surprise. "The ship is maintaining its trajectory without any quantum distortions." "Of course it is," Riley said, leaning casually against a railing. "This baby just needed someone to treat it like a machine instead of a miracle." Zira's sharp gaze softened, and she nodded. "You've done something remarkable, human." Riley smirked. It's what we do. As the Vanguard continued its journey, Riley was summoned to the ship's bridge. The command center was a gleaming hub of activity, filled with Kalyrian officers and holographic interfaces. Captain Darren, a stoic alien with shimmering blue scales and an air of authority, turned to Riley as he entered. "We've encountered an anomaly," Darren said, gesturing to the main display. The hologram showed a massive tear in space, a swirling vortex of light and shadow that pulsed ominously. "What is that?" Riley asked, his brow furrowing. "A quantum rift," Vinak explained, stepping forward. "It appears the engine's unique output is interacting with subspace in unpredictable ways." Unpredictable? Riley raised an eyebrow. "That's not exactly comforting." "We need to stabilize the rift before it expands," Zira said. "If it spreads, it could collapse the surrounding space." Riley scratched his head, his gaze fixed on the swirling vortex. "All right, let's think this through. What if we use the engine to reverse the rift's polarity?" "Reverse its polarity?" Vinak repeated, his glowing veins dimming in shock. "That's absurdly dangerous." Riley grinned. "Dangerous, sure, but it might work." The team scrambled to implement Riley's plan. In the engine room, Riley worked alongside the Kalyrian engineers, rerouting energy flows and recalibrating systems with a mix of precision and improvisation. "Are you sure about this?" Zira asked, her silver scales glinting under the flickering lights. "Absolutely not," Riley replied, tightening a bolt with a wrench. "But I've got a good feeling about it." As the rift loomed larger on the main display, the Vanguard's crew braced for the unexpected. "Here goes nothing," Riley muttered, slamming a final lever into place. The engine roared louder than ever, its energy output surging as it bent quantum layers to reverse the rift's polarity. The ship shook violently, and alarms blared as the crew held on for dear life. "Stabilization at 50%, Vinak shouted over the noise. "Keep going," Riley yelled back. "We're almost there." The engine's energy flared brilliantly, and the rift began to shrink, its chaotic edges smoothing out. With one final surge, the rift collapsed into a pinpoint of light before vanishing entirely. The bridge erupted into cheers as the ship's systems stabilized. "You did it," Zira said, her voice filled with awe. Riley leaned against the railing, catching his breath. "Told you. Confidence." Back on the Galactic Council's homeworld, Riley stood before the assembly once again. The holographic display behind him showed the Vanguard's successful journey and the stabilized quantum rift. "Against all odds, this human has proven the impossible," one counselor declared, their multifaceted eyes shimmering with respect. Zira stepped forward, addressing the assembly. "Riley Carter's unconventional methods have not only stabilized our most advanced technology, but also expanded our understanding of the universe. Humanity has shown us the value of creativity and adaptability." The chamber filled with applause as Riley gave a small wave, his grin widening. As the session ended, Zira approached him. "You've changed how the galaxy views humans, Riley." No big deal," Riley said, shrugging. "We're just getting started." Velthar pulsed faintly on his chest, its voice echoing in his mind. Perhaps the galaxy underestimated humanity after all. The Galactic Council wasted no time declaring the Vanguard's success a technological milestone. Requests for Riley's expertise flooded in from star systems far and wide, each eager to adapt his unconventional methods. Back on the Council's homeworld, Riley found himself walking through the newly renamed Carter Research Wing, a sprawling facility dedicated to advancing interstellar engineering. Holographic plaques adorned the walls, each displaying a message of gratitude from alien species whose systems he had helped stabilize. Zira joined him, her silver scales shimmering under the building's soft, ambient light. "You've become a legend in a very short time," Riley smirked. "Not bad for a guy who once fixed his mom's dishwasher with a shoelace and a prayer." Her expression softened. "You've also given the galaxy something we didn't realize we needed, a reminder that simplicity and creativity can solve problems even our most advanced minds overlook." They stopped before a large holographic display showcasing the stabilized quantum engine. Riley gazed at it, his grin fading into a more thoughtful expression. Let's just hope the galaxy remembers that the next time they try to overthink something. The success of Riley's quantum engine modifications triggered a wave of innovation. Engineers across the galaxy began questioning long-held assumptions, and institutions once bound by rigid traditions embraced experimentation. On a distant research station orbiting a dying star, a team of alien scientists replicated Riley's methods to create a gravitational stabilizer, saving an entire solar system from collapse. On a colony world plagued by power shortages, engineers adapted Riley's principles to build a simpler, more efficient energy grid, restoring light and hope to millions. And in the council chambers, a resolution was passed to integrate humanity's approach to problem solving into galactic education systems. It's a funny thing, Riley mused during a speech at the council's annual summit. You build the most advanced tech in the universe, and then you need a guy with duct tape to make it work. Maybe the real lesson is that sometimes less is more. The assembly erupted in laughter, but the truth of his words resonated deeply. Months later, Riley found himself back aboard the Vanguard, now serving as the lead consultant for its next mission, a journey to explore uncharted regions of the galaxy. As the ship prepared to depart, Zira joined him in the engine room. You realize this mission wouldn't exist without you, she said. Riley chuckled, leaning against the glowing core of the quantum engine. It's not about me, Zira. It's about proving that no problem is unsolvable if you're willing to get creative. The ship's systems powered up, the hum of the engine filling the room with a comforting rhythm. Zira tilted her head, a rare smile gracing her features. Let's hope you're right, human. The Vanguard launched into the unknown, its quantum engine blazing a trail through the stars. For Riley, it wasn't just a journey into new territory. It was a testament to the power of human ingenuity, the unpredictable spark that had reshaped the galaxy. Years later, a statue of Riley Carter was erected in the council's central plaza, depicting him standing confidently with his trusty toolbox in one hand and the repaired quantum engine in the background. The inscription read, "In defiance of impossibility, he reminded us that sometimes the simplest solutions hold the greatest power." Humanity, once dismissed as a chaotic and unpredictable species, had become a symbol of creativity and resilience. And as new challenges arose across the galaxy, Riley's story became a beacon of hope, inspiring countless others to look at the impossible and say, "Let's fix it."